What is up, guys? Rick Cacus here, and today, the 24-hour free Gambit trial goes live for Destiny 2, and as such, we are going to be showcasing the complete Gambit guide, detailing firstly how to play Gambit on a base level, and then talking about a bunch of tips, strategies, loadout recommendations, and just stuff you're going to want to know to succeed in Gambit for both this trial and when Gambit goes live officially with the release of Forsaken on September 4th. And so, let's get started. But just before we do, guys, if you're looking for amazing gaming headphones, including the ones I personally use, the A40s, I've partnered with ASTRO, so there's a discount code in the description down below. Click it to save some money and help me out. Definition of a win-win. So, Gambit. Now, I've actually played Gambit several times up to this point, so I'm pretty well versed in the mechanics, in strategies, and in doing certain things that you're going to want to do to get advantages over teams who don't know these certain strategies and tips. But we need to start out with, just on a base level, what exactly is going on in Gambit? What do you do to just participate in this activity? Well, Gambit is 4v4 of PvE and PvP at the same time. So you're going to form your squad of 4, you're going to go in, get matched against another squad of 4, and although you can see each other at the very beginning of the match, you're then going to be teleported into 2 different but identical maps. On these maps, you simply slay out on a bunch of PvE enemies. Every time you kill a PvE enemy, they're going to drop these little motes, these little triangles. You pick those up, and once you've collected however many motes you want, up to 15 total, you go back to a central banking location, you have to interact with it, and you bank those motes. So, if you go out, kill a bunch of enemies, collect 10 motes, go back and bank it, then those 10 motes will contribute to your team's overall score. If you bank 75 motes in total as a team, then you're going to summon a special boss for your team to kill, a primeval. The first team to kill their primeval wins the round. If you win 2 rounds, you win the match. Now, although those are kind of pretty much it for the base level mechanics, there's a lot more side mechanics going on. Depending on how many motes you bank, you're actually going to summon blockers for the enemy team's location that will actually prevent them from putting any more motes into their bank. So, at 5, 10, and 15 motes that you bank personally, you're going to summon a small, medium, or large blocker. So you go out and kill enemies, and again you get 10 motes, then you go and bank them. Well, you're going to summon a medium blocker, an enemy that's going to make the other team's bank actually disappear, so they're not able to bank their motes while this is happening. They have to kill that medium blocker that you summoned in order for their bank to reappear, and they can start banking motes again. But as a team, when you bank 25 motes, you're going to open a portal very close to your bank that's going to allow one player on your team to go through that portal, enter the enemy team's arena, and then kill as many as they can. They're there for a limited amount of time, so if you don't kill anyone within that limited time, you will be teleported just back to your own arena. Also, if you kill 4 players, you will be instantly teleported back, so you can't go on massive killing sprees. Now, you will actually be able to invade again once your team has banked 50 motes, and when your primeval is summoned, the enemy team can invade you constantly once every around 30-ish seconds, and same for you. If the enemy team summons their primeval, you can invade pretty consistently once that happens. And by the way, any kills by an invader when the primeval is up will actually heal the primeval for each kill. So, that's how you play Gambit, but now let's move on into helping you win Gambit. So, let's talk about just collecting motes in general. This is going to be, honestly, one of the key factors in winning your game, is just going out, being very aggressive, and killing a lot of PvE enemies. But there's a little bit more to it than just slaying. Firstly, the quality of the enemies will actually vary the amount of motes they drop. For example, if you kill a baseline enemy, it's going to drop 1 mote. But if you kill a captain, it's going to drop like 3 motes at a time. So you do want to prioritize those bigger, harder to kill enemies. Also, there will be a point within your match where a high value target spawns. he's going to actually drop motes like as you're wounding him, and also a big spray when you kill that high value target. That's something you don't want to ignore as well, but also make sure you're communicating with your team. 2 players or 3 players can melt that high value target way easier than just one person slowly picking away, especially if they lack ammo, for example. So communicate with your team, go after the big targets, and definitely first because they drop a ton of motes. Now, speaking of motes, while you're picking up motes, frankly, I don't think it's that great of an idea to save up to 15 motes unless it's at, the very beginning of the game and you can get away with it. Because you are going to basically single-handedly result in your team losing the match if you die with 15 motes from an enemy invader. It sets you back massively. So frankly, I've found that it's just best to, once you get 5 or 10 motes, start banking them right away. Now, speaking of being invaded, a super helpful tip is that although your bank is going to disappear when they summon blockers, when they're invading, it actually doesn't affect your bank at all. So once you get indicated that the enemy is invading your side of the map, it's actually best to go and bank those motes right away if you're near the bank, because then even if that invader kills you, well, you have 0 motes. It's not setting your team back very far at all. And if you do have something like 10 or 15 motes when there's an enemy invading, you want to disappear, make yourself scarce, because if you die again, it's very, very detrimental. Now, let's actually talk about invading for a second here. So, as the invader, you're going to be able to see the locations of all of the enemy team members all the time. Like, you will see their tags through walls, everything, so you know exactly where they are. That does make stuff like sniper rifles actually pretty darn effective. Even if you aren't like the best sniper out there, the fact that you can just get up to a high corner of the map and see people through walls, they don't necessarily know where you are, you can get some pretty easy picks on clueless enemies. But of course you can use other things than sniper rifles, but when you're invading, you want to use something that is as powerful as a sniper rifle or more powerful. So you do not want to invade the enemy team when you just have primary ammo. This is a terrible idea. You only want to be invading when you have super, special, or heavy ammo. And this actually means that you cannot really have one player dedicated to invading. This is something I believe that a lot of teams are going to try to do. They're going to say, all right, we're 3 going to just farm the crap out of PvE enemies, and you, since you're the best PvP player, you invade every time. Bad idea. Why? Because that player, if they're invading every time, they're either going to have to save all their resources just for invading, so they won't be really contributing to killing PvE enemies very much, and it's unlikely they're going to have a super every single time or ammo every single time they're invading, especially during the primeval phase where they can invade quite often. So you actually want to have 2, sometimes even 3 players rotating as the potential invader. Basically, the best thing to do is to just have the person on your team with the most lethal resources in terms of, again, super, special, and heavy ammo invade. So whoever has their super up, well, they're the guy that's invading, because if you can invade, the enemy doesn't necessarily know where you are, you can see them through walls, and you have a super, it's very, very likely you're going to get kills. Now, speaking of getting kills, another massive tip is that when you invade, you're actually going to see numbers above people's heads. These are the amount of motes they're actually carrying. So really importantly, once you invade, scan around, look for the highest number. If you see someone with 10, 11, 12 more motes, you go for them. Honestly, almost ignore the people with 0 motes, unless obviously they're in your way, you have to kill them to get to the other guy, stuff like that. But really go out of your way to kill the guy with the most motes. Because frankly, killing a guy with 10 motes is way more useful than killing 3 guys with 1 mote. Like, that doesn't set their team back at all. Killing the 1 guy with 10 does. So again, go out of your way to kill those people with the highest numbers above their heads. But how do you ensure that you're invading at the right time and that you don't just go through the portal and see that everyone has 0 motes? Well, you can actually tell before you ever invade. Up where it showcases how close each team is to banking their primeval, it will show 2 different colors Within each team's bar, the vibrant color is how much they've actually banked, and then the gray part of the bar is how much they're holding but haven't banked yet. So you can actually see, like, if they're full solid color, you probably don't want to invade. You may want to wait a bit. But if you see a pretty substantial gray bar, then you're going to want to do everything you can to invade right away. Like, if you see a massive gray bar, make everyone, put in their modes at the same time. Who cares if you have 4 and you're 1 away from a small blocker, whatever. You want to invade as quickly as possible so you can set them back massively. And again, that's why I say, like, don't hoard motes. Don't be the team that has all, 4 of you guys with 15 motes and your big plan is to send in all these blockers. Well, one person invades and you're screwed. Now, speaking of those bars that indicate how many motes you've banked, it isn't just the people playing aggressively that can use that to their advantage, it's also the people just collecting and banking motes that can use that to advantage, because you can actually see how close the enemy team is to invading. There's a little slit within the bar, and once they get over that slit, they can invade. So if they're right in the middle, like if it's between the 25 and 50 mote mark or the 50 and the 75 mark, that's when you may want to take a little bit of extra risks, like go and get 10 motes and try to summon a bunch of blockers and stuff like that. Potentially at those times, you may want to use your super as the mote collector to just kill a bunch of ads and get ahead in terms of motes banked during that time, because you're kind of safe from invasion. You want to be paying attention though, because once they get close to that slit, an invasion is imminent, and then again, you want to bank your motes and make sure you're playing a little bit more cautiously, and at that point, start saving up supers and heavy and so on to counter a potential invasion. And countering those invasions are very, very useful. It is 100% worth using your super or using your heavy ammo on an invader. Like, don't think that you should be saving your super for other things. If you see an invader, obviously, call out to your team so you don't use 2 supers at once. But if you see an invader and you have a super, use it. Kill that invader, because you are setting the other team back quite a bit by the fact that they wasted their invasion. So, just a couple of more tips I want to mention before moving into recommended loadouts. Firstly, when you're planning on invading, it is helpful if you can summon some blockers and invade at the same time. If you can get 2 of your teammates just to even summon, 2 5-mote small blockers and then send the guy through the portal, well, it's going to make it so that they can avoid doing the tip I mentioned earlier, which is just, oh crap, we're being invaded, bank your motes right away, make sure that if, you do die, you have 0 motes. They're now going to have to focus on killing those blockers before they can bank anything, and you can catch people, like, trying to kill blockers while you're invading. They have 10 or 15 motes, and then you just know where they all are and you kill them, and it's very, very good. In addition to that, when you're collecting motes, it's actually best if only 2 or 3 people collect all the motes, because if all 4 people are killing and trying to collect motes, you're going to spread those motes way too thin. If 3 people are collecting motes, it's way more likely that they're going to have enough to summon blockers. Whereas again, if all 4 people are, you're all going to have 3 motes, whereas if only 2 or 3 people have, you're going to have like 5, 5, 5. So you're just going to have more opportunity for summoning blockers quicker. It should also be noted that when you are invading, you are going to be a little bit stronger than your average Guardian. Now, another big tip is that when your team's Primeval is summoned, don't just try to melt it right away, because you're actually going to want to melt other enemies that spawn with your Primeval. There's going to be a bunch of yellow health enemies that spawn with it, because killing those guys will actually give you a damage bonus when melting your Primeval. So kill those guys first, get that damage bonus. Once you see you're doing more damage, that's the time to move in with swords, shotguns, snipers, whisper, whatever you want to do, and go for the melt. Alright, now let's talk about recommended loadouts. So, the thing about Gambit is that you are quite literally going to need to be equipped for both PvE and PvP combat. Yes, you can have probably 1 person on your team specialized for each. Like, you might want to have 1 person with a very PvE centric loadout, just totally dedicated to slaying, and then 1 person with a more PvP loadout who's going to try to invade as much as they can, but like I said earlier, they can't be doing it literally every time. And then you have 2 people that are there for both. If those 2 people have their super up, at the time when you need to invade, they can go in, but also they're helping with PvE quite a bit. but you don't want to have too many dedicated loadouts, right? Because you are going to need to be doing both for most of the time. So that means I am going to highly recommend running one primary weapon, one special weapon, and of course one heavy weapon. Running two primaries is going to result in you not being able to kill the PvE enemies fast enough. Like if you're battling a high value target, you don't want to be having to pick away at it with an auto rifle. You want to be able to use something like a shotgun or a fusion rifle to take that guy down relatively quickly, and not just a high value target but other PvE enemies. Also, having a special is going to help greatly when you're being invaded. You can shotgun down the invader because I do have a little bit of extra health, like much quicker than you can primary him. If you're just planning on winning your 1v1s with a guy with bonus health and damage, you're probably going to lose that fight, right? So specials will help you win that more often. And also when you do invade, you want a special weapon way more than, again, just two primaries. Now, this also means that running two special weapons is a bad idea. On the surface level, it seems great. Shotgun for PvE enemies, sniper for invading, let's go, right? And yeah, if you're unbelievable at the game, you can probably pull it off, but frankly, it's probably a bad idea for most people because it's just not consistent. You're going to run out of special ammo and you're going to be totally screwed. You need the consistency of the primary weapon because the fact is, there's a lot of PvE enemies. There is just a lot of guys, base level guys, that you're gonna want an auto rifle, a hand cannon, whatever, to mow down and to collect those single motes. If you're using a shotgun round or a sniper round on every single one of those basic enemies, you're frankly wasting special ammunition. Additionally, your special weapon should more than handle PvE enemies, so it's a good idea to dedicate your heavy slot to anti-player weapons. Stuff like rocket launchers with tracking, or grenade launchers with proximity detonation. Stuff that's very good at getting easy kills on other players is fantastic for either when you're invading the other team or you're being invaded. If someone tries to invade you, one lock-on rocket launcher could just end his day, shut down his invasion immediately. That is very, very useful. And so guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. Now, if you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. And if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.